Most women don't realize the power they hold until a man is on his knees, not from love, but from a hunger he can't name. It starts with something small, a glance that lingers, a smile that withdraws just as it's offered, a silence filled with thunder. She doesn't speak, and in that silence, he begins to hear his own inadequacy. But she didn't say anything, did she? She never does. The female ego doesn't roar, it whispers. And that whisper becomes a haunting in a man's soul. The female ego is not vanity. No, it is something far more primal. It is survival, seduction, a shield, and a sword. In the shadow of her ego lives the ancient woman, Lilith before Eve, the temptress, the healer, the destroyer of illusions. Jung called this the anima, the internal feminine within the male unconscious. But what happens when a living woman embodies the projections of a man's anima and then refuses to conform to his fantasy? She becomes his obsession. You see, the female ego is forged from centuries of being seen, touched, taken, but not known. Women learned not to chase power in the same way men do. They became the mirror in which men see their worth reflected. And when she turns away, when her eyes become indifferent, when she does not validate him, his ego begins to bleed. Not because she hurt him, but because without her gaze, he feels invisible. This is not manipulation. It is magnetism. Because the more she retreats into herself, the more he lunges toward her, like a boy chasing a firefly, only to find it disappears the moment he touches it. And still, he keeps chasing. Carl Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what he didn't say is this: if one is already whole and the other is fragmented, the transformation becomes possession. He doesn't want her. He wants what he sees in her, the reflection of who he could be if only she would love him. Her ego becomes the vessel for his unmet potential. And that is where the power lies. The empowered female ego knows exactly how far to let him in. Just enough to ignite his fantasies, but not enough to satisfy them. She may not even do it consciously, but her very presence forces him into confrontation with his own shadow. The parts of himself he abandoned, disowned, buried beneath bravado and conquest. And when she denies him, when she refuses to be his, something ancient awakens in him. Rage, longing, fear, obsession. Because now, she is not just a woman. She is the mother who withheld affection, the lover who left, the goddess he cannot please. She becomes every unmet need in his soul, and his mission is no longer to know her, but to conquer the feeling she evokes in him. And that is a battle he cannot win, because she is not a prize to be won. She is a mirror, and mirrors cannot be possessed, but let us not paint her as cruel. No, she too is lost in this dance. Her ego, built upon emotional intuition and survival, seeks validation in how deeply she is desired. And the more he obsesses, the more her ego inflates, not from arrogance, but from hunger. The hunger to feel irreplaceable. She doesn't want many men. She wants to be unforgettable to just one. And in that cruel irony, she becomes both sacred and destructive. This is not love. This is projection. Love is recognition. Obsession is illusion. And yet, you may wonder, how can something so intangible be so powerful? The answer is simple. The female ego doesn't operate in words. It moves through silence, withdrawal, mystery. The pause after the text. The maybe that drowns out the yes. It's in the way she looks away when you crave closeness. It's not rejection, it's testing. She is asking, "Are you strong enough to stand in my fire without being burned?" And if you are not, you will chase, you will ache, you will obsess, not over her, but over what she awakens in you. She is not your answer. She is your invitation to meet the parts of yourself you've ignored. The dance of obsession begins with a call, a silent one, rooted deep within the male psyche. It's an invitation to confront the dark recesses of his unconscious, those fragmented, often disowned aspects of himself that long to be integrated, understood, and embraced. And this is where the female ego becomes both muse and nemesis. It is the reflection he is not yet ready to face. She is the embodiment of his potential, his desires, and his unresolved wounds. Carl Jung spoke of the concept of individuation, the process by which a person becomes their true, integrated self. But for many men, individuation is a struggle they never fully undertake. Instead, they project their unconscious desires onto the woman before them, hoping she will fulfill the roles they are too afraid to confront within themselves. The female ego, in its primal form, becomes a mirror of these projections. She holds the power to reveal the truth, not just about her, but about the man who seeks to possess her. In his pursuit, the man is unknowingly seeking not only her love, but his own redemption. He's chasing the unspoken promise that in her eyes, he will find the validation he has always lacked. He is not in love with the woman. He is in love with the version of himself that he believes she sees. But this is a fantasy. She does not see him as he imagines. She sees him for who he truly is, his flaws and all, reflected through the lens of her own ego. The male ego, though it may appear confident and secure, is often fragile, built upon the need for external validation. The more a man projects his worth onto the woman, the more fragile his sense of self becomes. The female ego, in contrast, is shaped by both her own internal world and the world's projection upon her. She is expected to be many things at once, nurturing, beautiful, wise, and strong, all while holding space for the men who long to possess her. The burden of this projection can either empower her or ensnare her in a cycle of emotional depletion. What is often misunderstood is that the woman who pulls a man into obsession is not consciously manipulating him. She is simply existing in her own power, being who she is. She is not the object of his obsession. She is the mirror reflecting his inner turmoil. And this mirror doesn't always show a flattering reflection. It may show his insecurities, his deepest fears, and his unmet desires. In the presence of a woman who embodies her own power, he is forced to confront the most painful truth of all. He cannot possess her because he cannot possess himself. This is the crux of the obsession. The man is not obsessed with the woman. He is obsessed with his own inadequacy. And it is in this inadequacy that his desire for validation blooms. But the more he seeks to possess her, the more she withdraws. This withdrawal is not cruel. It is not an act of rejection. It is a natural response to a man's projection. And when she withdraws, she is not abandoning him. She is only protecting her own ego from being consumed by his need. The male ego cannot bear being exposed, stripped of its armor. It fights against the very thing that could heal it. Self-awareness. To be truly seen, to be known for who he is, not for the projections he places upon the woman, but for his truest self, is a terrifying proposition. The woman's withdrawal forces him to face the parts of himself he has avoided, the parts that feel weak, unworthy, or unloved. And this confrontation can either be the gateway to transformation or the abyss of obsession. The key to breaking this cycle lies in the man's ability to detach his sense of self-worth from the woman's validation. He must stop projecting his desires and inadequacies onto her. He must, as Jung would suggest, integrate his shadow, those hidden parts of himself that he fears. Only when he has done this will he cease to see the woman as an object to be possessed, and instead begin to see her as she truly is, an equal, a fellow traveler on the journey of life. This is where the female ego holds its true power, in its ability to either bind or liberate. When a woman stands in her own power, she is not just holding space for herself. She is creating a space where the man can confront his own wounds and begin the painful, necessary work of self-integration. In this sacred space, true intimacy can be born, not from obsession, but from mutual recognition. When the projections stop, the illusion crumbles, and the two souls can meet in truth. But this takes time. It takes self-awareness. It takes the courage to face the shadow and accept that no one, not even the most beloved woman, can complete us. We must first be whole within ourselves. This is the journey of individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole. For the woman who knows her worth, the battle is not in keeping a man's attention. The battle is in resisting the temptation to let his obsession define her. She does not chase. She does not need to. The woman who knows herself, who has integrated her shadow, is not in need of validation from others. She does not bend to the will of the projections others place upon her. She stands in her own light. And those who are worthy of her will see her, truly see her, for who she is. There is something profoundly liberating in the realization that a woman's worth is not bound to another's desire for her. The more a woman understands her own power, the less she is affected by the projections and expectations of others. She recognizes that the obsession a man has for her is not about her, it's about him. It is not love, but a reflection of his inner chaos, his need for external validation. She is merely the mirror, holding space for his reflection. But this reflection is not her responsibility to fix or to fulfill. Jung spoke of the shadow, those parts of the psyche that we repress, the hidden aspects of ourselves that we do not wish to acknowledge. For men, the shadow often manifests as a deep fear of inadequacy, a fear of not being enough. This is what the female ego pulls to the surface. It is not that she is intentionally cruel or indifferent. It is that in her refusal to fully submit, to be possessed, she forces him to confront the very parts of himself that he has spent his life trying to avoid. This is the paradox of the female ego. In her silence, in her withdrawal, she compels him to look deeper. And what he sees may frighten him, it may anger him, it may even drive him mad. Because the moment he steps away from his projections, the moment he sees her not as an object of his desire, but as a separate, sovereign being, he is forced to confront the truth of his own vulnerability. And this truth is something he is not always prepared to face. There is a raw power in a woman who understands this dynamic. She knows that her value is not determined by the man's obsession with her, but by her own self-awareness. The more she aligns with her true essence, the less she needs to prove herself to anyone. She is not here to be chosen by him, nor is she waiting for him to complete her. She is already whole. And in her wholeness, she becomes both magnetic and untouchable. This is the quiet strength of the woman who knows her worth. She doesn't chase. She doesn't need to. And this is the point where the obsession begins to unravel. The more a man seeks to possess her, the more he realizes that he cannot. She is beyond possession. She is not an object to be conquered. She is a force unto herself, a woman whose ego is in perfect balance with her authentic self. But this process is not without its own challenges. The woman who stands in her power may find herself constantly challenged, constantly misunderstood. Her very presence may trigger the projections of others, causing them to react with defensiveness, aggression, or passive aggression. But this is the price she pays for her authenticity. To be truly herself is to risk being misunderstood, rejected, or even vilified. Yet, there is immense freedom in this risk. Because when she stands fully in her truth, she no longer feels the need to seek validation from external sources. She does not need a man's obsession to validate her beauty, her intelligence, or her worth. She already knows these things, deeply and unwaveringly. And this, in turn, disempowers the very ego that once sought to possess her. The more a man obsesses, the more he loses himself in the illusion. And as he becomes lost in his pursuit, he will eventually come to understand, if he is willing, that no amount of external validation will ever fill the empty space within him. He must look inward. He must learn to love himself, to accept his own shadow, to integrate the parts of him that he has disowned. And only then will he be free. The woman who has integrated her shadow, who has healed the wounds of her past, no longer operates out of a place of need. She is not seeking anything from anyone. She does not need to be the object of anyone's obsession because she is already whole. This is her power. And when a man encounters her, he is either drawn into the transformative space she creates, or he will be repelled by it, unable to face the parts of himself that she forces him to confront. But make no mistake, the woman who stands in her own power does not chase after anyone. She does not chase after love, validation, or approval. She chooses. She chooses the relationships that nourish her, the people who see her for who she truly is. She does not waste her time on those who seek to possess her, because she knows that her worth is not for sale. This is the ultimate freedom, the freedom to be loved, not because of what you can give or how you can serve, but because you are enough as you are. The woman who knows her worth does not bend to the will of another. She stands tall in her own light. And those who are worthy will see her, not for what they want her to be, but for who she truly is. This is the essence of true empowerment. It is not in the manipulation of others. It is in the reclamation of the self. The woman who understands this no longer seeks validation from the outside world. She is her own validation. And this is where the obsession fades, the projections fall away, and true love, true connection can begin. Not from a place of need, but from a place of mutual recognition and respect. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She chooses.